Many years ago, in a distant land in the north of Africa, there lived an evil king who ruled his people with iron fist and tyranny. Though his names were King Arwe or Wenaba, he was known simply as the Serpent King, because he has the tendency to transform into a very big snake every evening. Anytime he transforms into a snake, he will demand that one of the virgin daughters of the land should be sacrificed to him to satisfy his appetite. His desire for human sacrifice grew worse that sometimes he will even demand 2 girls and a cow just to satisfy his hunger for the night. The girls to be sacrificed will be taken to the sacrificial mountain and tied to a big tree on top of the mountain and left there for the king serpent to devour. The Serpent King, who would then transform to a serpent, will appear from the large stone by the tree side and swallow the girl alive. He will lay there digesting his meal, and just before the morning he will transform back to a human, and his servant will come to get him from the mountain back to the palace. His demand for the sacrifice of the girls became unbearable to the people of the land that they started looking for ways to kill the king. However, the Serpent King has the power to decipher the thought and intent of his followers' hearts, and anyone who simply thinks about doing him any harm will be arrested and devoured by the king himself, even before he concludes the plan to kill the king. This made the whole nation live in fear, and no one ever dares to talk about or complain against the tyranny of the king. One day, a woman of the land whose turn it is to sacrifice her daughter was in serious distress. She was a widow and had only one daughter whom she delivered when she was past 40 years of age. She loved her daughter so much and will give her life for her daughter, especially now that she has passed the age of childbearing. She knows she will not be able to give birth to another child if this one is taken from her. She went to the king, begged him to spare her daughter and accept her cow in her place, because she was the only child she had, but the king refused. She was ready to sell all she had and to buy more cows for the king in place of daughter, but the king was adamant and refused to heed all her cries. In fact, he ordered his servants to take her daughter from her immediately and prepare the girl as the evening meal for him. The daughter was then forcefully taken away from her mother, prepared for the sacrifice, and then tied to the tree of sacrifice on the mountain for the king. The mother, who will not return home because she was in distress, sat by the pathway on the foot of the mountain that leads to the mountain top, wailing endlessly for her daughter. It was by the evening, just as the king was taken to the mountain to transform to a serpent and consume the girl, that a man from another city was passing along the route when he came across the woman crying because of her daughter. He asked her the reason she was crying, and she told him that her daughter was to be sacrificed for the king, and she was the only child that she had. The man, whose name was Agabus, told her not to worry, that he knows how to defeat the Serpent King and save the city from this barbaric culture of human sacrifice. He told her to get him a white spotless lamb and a bowl of juice that is extracted from the euphorbia tree. The woman left the scene in haste to get the white lamb for the strange man. She did not even have the lamb at home, so she had to go from house to house looking for anyone who has it and is ready for trade by barter with her cow, which she earlier offered to the king in place of her daughter, but he rejected it. She met a certain woman who coincidentally was the mother of the next girl to be sacrificed after her daughter. And alas, the woman had a white lamb without blemish in her sheepfold. She rushed and took the lamb out, and the 2 women went straight to get the euphorbia tree juice and were off to meet the man immediately. When they brought the lamb and bowl of the juice to Agabus, he collected the things from them and climbed the hill to meet the Serpent King. Meanwhile, the whole city heard about the news of the man, and they were all gathered at the base of the mountain anxiously, but doubting if the man will come back alive. This was not the first time someone will challenge the Serpent King in such manner. And every time someone challenges the king like that, the person will end up becoming an extra meal for the day. The king will oftentimes become angry with the whole city and will kill random 7 people to appease his anger. As they stood by the base of the mountain and the man went up to the mountain, they were full of fear as each minute that passes by. Now, when Agabus met the king, who was already transformed and was preparing to swallow the girl, he called out to him and told him that he was Agabus, a man from the city neighboring his own city that wants to have a peace talk with him. The Serpent King stopped and was amazed at the courage of the man had to face him in the time of his rage. He shouted to the man and asked him who gave him the gust to come to him at such a time of his rage. The man told him to please hear him out first, and that he has brought this lamb and the juice as an appetizer for him before he consumes the girl, after which they will sit and talk. The serpent snatched the lamb from him and swallowed it immediately. He also took the juice and drank it to clear his throat for the main meal, which is the girl that is tied to the tree. As he tried to move towards the girl, he noticed the place was becoming blurring for him and he could not see clearly again. He tried to ask the man what was in the juice he gave him, but he had no strength in him again. He fell to the ground thud, and his whole system was turning him and blood started gushing out of his mouth, and soon he was dead. The euphorbia tree is a poisonous tree and the poison has finally killed the king. Agabus quickly untied the girl from the tree and took the girl down the mountain. Meanwhile, the people waiting by the foot of the mountain had waited for more than 2 hours now, and they have assumed that the man was not successful, and probably that the Serpent King must have eaten the man and the girl, and will be killing 7 extra people for feeling betrayed by his own people. Suddenly they saw the silhouette of the man carrying the girl, and it looked like the Serpent King was the one coming down the mountain. Some of them had started running away when Agabus shouted that they should not run. The evil king is dead. The whole city erupted in joy and they began celebrating to this wonderful news. They carried Agabus on their shoulders through the city streets celebrating the good news, and even insisted that the man stay over with them for some days. The old Serpent King was then buried on the mountain, and the people insisted that the man who killed the serpent should be their new king. Agabus refused to be the king of the city, but offered his daughter to be the queen instead. The people, who have never had a female rule over their kingdom before, felt it was not proper for a woman to become their ruler. They insisted that the man should wear the crown instead of his daughter, but he will not agree. After much persuasion, the people agreed to give his daughter the chance, but told him that he needs to bring his daughter to the priest of the land to determine whether the gods of the city will accept a woman as the queen of the land or not. The girl was brought before the people, who took her to the sacred mountain of transformation, and the gods favored the man by accepting the daughter as the queen of the land. This is to appease the blood of all the virgin daughters that King Arwe was killing all the while. Their blood is crying for justice and recognition from the land of the dead. They want the girl to rule over the city and bring the necessary change and tranquility to the land in their memory. The girl was crowned as the first queen of the land, which was called Aksum, but was later known as the Ethiopian Dynasty. The girl's name was Makeda, who was simply known as Queen Sheba. The same Queen Sheba in the Bible that had a child with King Solomon. And that will be a story for another video. Thank you for watching.